So for upgrade number 3 to the Worktable Sawmill, we're going to attach this 3 horsepower treadmill motor. Now there's a few videos on the internet, that YouTube, that talk about how to remove the pulley from treadmill motor. Usually they are keyed, so there's a keyway cut here and set screws. And sometimes they're reverse thread, so you got to spin it the other way to get it off. This particular motor is different from others that I've seen in that it has a tapered shaft and then held in place by that bolt. The advantage that I've got with this is that I can spin the motor then in either direction, which is going to be perfect for me. I want to spin this counterclockwise. In the treadmill, it was spinning clockwise. So that means by spinning it counterclockwise, I don't have to do any changes to the Worktable Sawmill. However, the problem that I've got is I don't want to use a belt like that came on the treadmill. So this is the belt that came on the treadmill. And yes, it fits on there very nicely. But finding another pulley that I can put on the Worktable Sawmill to take that belt, and even getting a belt itself, tends to be expensive. They're not the easy to find variety type of thing. However, I do have this pulley. So what I have seen on the internet is people grinding this down to the point where they can slip this pulley on, and then cut a keyway in there to match the keyway on the pulley, and then affix it to that shaft. So that's what I'm going to do. It'll wind up going on this way, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'll mount this treadmill motor up onto the table so that a little firm, like we're on a board, so it'll be clamped down solid, it won't move. Then I'm going to spin the motor, just using some DC power for now. I'm going to connect it to a battery that I have. So that'll spin it rather slowly. Then I'll use my my grinder so that and cut that off, or just slowly grind away. See how that works. So I'll set the camera up to show you that. All right, I've got the grinder set up the motor is now set up on the table, clamped down, won't move. That's why the camera's shaking a little. I'm going to connect it up to the battery, get it spinning. This is spinning just a very slow RPM, which is just fine. And then I'll use the grinder, and I'll be working on this side just to kind of grind away a little bit. So we'll go a little bit at a time, see how that works. So with a little bit of grinding, a little effort, we've already taken the teeth marks off, or the teeth off that belt, poly belt, the poly belt pulley there. So quite a way to go yet. And I'll have to start getting pretty careful as we near the end of final fit. It's grinding it off, but not perfectly even in terms of going across this way. So we'll have to be very careful as we get closer to the final pitch. But I got a fair way to go. I'm trying to get down to 7/8 of an inch. So yeah, quite a way to go yet. But I'll carry on, and I'll bring you back as we're getting close to the final cut. So we're getting kind of close now. We're down to about 0.93 of an inch. We need to go to 0.75. Actually, no, not quite that. 7/8 of an inch. So we're getting close. What I did discover though is turning this motor slowly using just a battery. It was an 18-volt battery. What wound up happening is I was getting some flat spots on the shaft as I was grinding it. So I guess there's some kind of harmonic distortion going on, harmonic imbalance, so that the speed of the grinder, the angle grinder, and the speed of the motor were just such that things started bouncing a bit like this, and actually wore in flat spots, or what would become flat spots. I had 4 of them on the wheel. So what I did is I swapped out now to the final solution, which is actually a speed controller with a bridge rectifier. I'm now running the motor almost full tilt, not quite, and then using the grinder on that, and that has just turned everything right back perfectly round and smooth. So I'm happy with that. I've also switched from using a grinding disc to a flap disc. So it's giving me a better finish, and it moves a little bit slower. So I'm okay with that. So I'm going to continue grinding here until we're ready for the final fit of the pulley. All right, we're getting really close now. We got just fits on, just goes on to the front. So I need to do just a little bit of grinding from here back. And visually I can see there's a bit of a taper. So I'll concentrate on this part back here, and we'll get this on. We're getting close. I'll bring you along for the ride. That little label there kills when it hits your hand at high speed. Okay, we are very close. Very, very close. So I can see we're binding from about this point back, right there. So it's going to take a little bit more off that last bit. So I'm just going to try and get a little bit more at this very end, just right in there. Not sure that I'm going to be able to do that with the flap disc. I may go to a cutting wheel, like a thin disc, and just try and taper that off at the very end. But we'll try it first with the flap disc. Oh yeah, I'm very happy with that. Maybe I'll take just a smidgen more off. Yeah, I'm going to try just a little smidgen more. Oh yeah, that's it. You can see that the pulley comes now right flush with, well, maybe you can't see, but it comes right flush with the end of the shaft. So I am really happy with that. Next phase, we'll cut a keyway into that, in what remains of the shaft. So for that, I'm going to be using a Dremel tool and a little cut disc. So this is the keyway that I'm going to be using. Fits in that pulley nicely. So what I need to do is cut a groove in here in the shaft to accommodate that. And I have my Dremel tool set up with a little grinding disc on it. You can see there. So I'll just be trying, I don't know how this is going to work exactly, to come out along the shaft like so. Not sure how this is going to work. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, making a dent. What I'm trying to do is get a good groove started on one end here that the grinding disc here will be able to follow. If I just try and go back and forth across the whole thing, I'm concerned that I'll be flopping around on that thing like this. So I want to cut a reasonable, I'll call it a trench, that I can use as a guide to move forward. I realize my hand is in the way of a view, so let me just adjust the camera a bit. Okay, I hope you can see what I'm doing from there. I may have gone as far as I can go with that. The edge of the Dremel here is now bumping up against the side of the flywheel. You may have noticed that as I've been cutting, so I'm gonna have to rethink about what to do here. I'll come right back. So what I'm going to do is keep the keyway a little short. I get about that much, half an inch of the keyway. That puts it about halfway onto the set screw to clamp it down. And that's the kind of groove we now have cut into the shaft. So with that, cut the keyway off, and now we can start thinking about mounting it onto the Worktable Sawmill. So I'm working now on the motor mounts for this treadmill motor, how to get that how to get it attached to the Worktable Sawmill. So I got 2 bolts here. They're 3 inches apart, but it's a round motor body. So going back to my bed rail, I've got these brackets, and I marked a semicircle on them here, and then took them over to my cutoff wheel and on my grinder, cut them off, and then rounded them off just a little bit so that they will fit on the motor mount like so, fit on the motor like that. And there's still a little bit of fine tuning to do. So the intention is now to have both of these brackets. They'll be put together like that, and I'll quite likely weld those 2 together to make a solid piece. And then a piece of metal in between here. So I'll use some of this flat bar, and we'll weld that in there. Drill 2 holes, and the motor then. So there'll be a hole here, and the bolts will come from underneath to bolt into the motor, and that will pull it down snug into the cradle, that semicircle to grab the motor. And then these will be bolted, this bracket here will now be bolted onto a larger board that gets bolted onto the beam of the Worktable Sawmill. So that's the strategy I'm going with. We'll see how it works. And there's a little piece that's cut and marked for holes. So I'll get a hole here and a hole here. I'll take that over the drill press and cut a hole. It's going to be slightly over 5/16. That's the size of the bolt that holds that goes into the motor. There's our motor mount all welded up, ready to mount onto the motor. And the motor is now mounted on the beam of the Worktable Sawmill. I got the electronics temporarily set here. They will be mounted in a project box, but I just wanted to make sure everything was in place and I could give a quick test. Got the pulley aligned right. So we're ready now to give it a first power up and see how it goes. I'm going to move the camera around so you can see it powering up. I think we have an amazing difference here in performance. The motor is more powerful, and I'm spinning a little faster, and I think it's just going to make real short work of this. I'm going to lower the blade about 1/4 of an inch, just take another little slice off here just to see what it does. I'll bring you along for the ride. Okay, blade down, let's give her a bash. That was a real-time cut. What a difference. Well, hey, thanks for joining along. Thanks for coming for the ride. Please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more videos.